Hey everyone, so today we're going to be looking through the issues investigation. Now, this issues investigation is used across the year levels 10, 11 and 12. It is altered each time though, so obviously in year 10 there's not going to be as much content as in 11, 11 there's not going to be as much content as in year 12, okay? So that kind of makes sense. So if you are wondering about the 700 letter words max, this is a year 12 one that I'm going through because, hey, you guys can always watch less. I don't really want to make 3 videos showing each one with slightly different questions. So, but year 10s and 11s can use this same video, and are basically using the same template with different questions, okay? So, regardless though, all 3 of them start with the opening statement. So, your opening statement for this is going to be, do you believe your product is or is not ecologically sustainable, okay? So, if you need to, I would suggest Googling the word ecologically sustainable, the term ecologically sustainable, it's 2 words. If you don't understand what it means, but also remembering that it's not bad if it's not ecologically sustainable, alright? So if it's not, hey, just say it's not, explain your reasoning, and then moving through, and that way you can keep going on the same vein all the way through, and then when you conclude, you'll sort it out then, okay? So, what you then look at is, so giving a look back in time and in industry and stuff, so Paragraph 1, alright, so after your opening statement, give a brief outline of changing mentalities of the industry towards recycling and sustainability. Industry now needs to know what impact a product will have on the environment. You need to make comparisons between attitudes toward recycling and sustainability of raw materials in the 1920s and today. Okay, so that's where you're having a look at, alright, so back in the 1920s, what do they have to do? Did they have to understand? You've got to make sure you refer this back to your product as well. If you're in materials tech class and you're making something out of metal, or wood, or you're doing an electronics task, make sure you talk about electronics. I don't want to read an assignment that says, oh, they didn't recycle much paper in the 1920s, because that's not relevant, is it? So you've got to make sure you're thinking about, alright, I'm making a metal project in metalwork, or materials tech, I'm going to be looking into the metal industry that was in the 1920s and then compare it to today. That's going to make a lot more sense. One thing as well, around the 1920s, I mean, the Industrial Revolution was around then, sorry. So you could be looking into that, and all the different things associated with that, okay? So looking at paragraph 2. Oh, actually, before we go to paragraph 2, if we could have a look at a few resources we have for paragraph 1. So as you can see here, we do have a graph, so showing from the 1900 to now, having a look at the difference with recycling. So you can have a look there, and that really shows you a good visual of what it was like. That's just one example though, so I'm not going to give you guys all the examples in these videos. So here's one example. I don't want to see everyone using this one. I'd probably say don't use this one, because I'm going to think, oh, they watched my video, they found the same graph and they copied it, that's it. So try to find your own stuff, and that way I know you've actually thought about it. This is the first website that popped up. So now I don't want people looking at the first paper mill to use recycled materials was built in 1815. It used recycled rags to make paper. Waste paper collections from household and factories started in Melbourne in the 1920s. So that stuff's not good. I mean, it's about paper, etc., etc. We don't want to use that. What we want to use though, so have a look down here, changing attitudes. So all down in here talks about changing attitudes as time goes on. It's not saying, like, it's starting in 1975. That's fine. So it's talking about though how it is changing and different things like that. So you can have a look through these websites and check that out. All right. And like I said before, don't just use this website. Find a different one. Find a better one. This is literally the first one I found, and I thought, oh, I'll have a 2-second read of it. Alright, so this bit's not good, but you can possibly use down here, okay? Or a bit of the introductory stuff. So having a look, finding stuff that's really, really going to bring home your points is really important, okay? So now if we keep looking, so paragraph 2 though, so what impact does good ecological design and engineering have on So what are the considerations for designers and engineers? What are the advantages for manufacturers? What are the advantages for retailers? What are the advantages of end users? What are the advantages for the environment? So what you've got to consider as well, so the consideration for designs and engineers, that's kind of where you guys should be at. So you might not have thought of it before, but now you're thinking about it. This is where the designers and engineers are at. So they're designing a product and thinking, is this ecologically sustainable? What materials am I using? What's the construction process? Am I burning heaps of fossil fuels doing that? Do I have to use heaps of fossil fuels traveling all around the globe, finding all the different parts for my product? Different things like that. They're the things they have to consider. And it's a real impact on the ecological design of it. So then that moves through to the manufacturers. So the engineers and designers have designed the product and they've sold the designs to the manufacturers, okay? So now what do the manufacturers have to think about, and what does the impact of good ecological design have on the manufacturers? So that could be that they have easier manufacturing processes that aren't as bad for the environment. So thinking along those lines, I don't want to give you everything for all of these, or if you're going to be thinking, I'm just going to be thinking, oh, they just copied what I said in the video. So there's one thing. Retailers, so you could think about advertising. Things might sell better if the advertisers being ecologically sustainable. What are the advantages of the end user if they're recycled? I mean, think about cans, right? Cans are the perfect example of something that manufacturers get to recycle and reuse, so their costs are down. Retailers can sell them, and I mean, they don't really advertise them as being recyclable, but hey, they can sell them, and it's something that's not going to make their product cost more, okay, because the casing of its recycling. And then the big plus for the end user is, hey, I get 10 cents for this at the end. It's going to encourage me to recycle. So also consider, though, that's only in South Australia and a couple of other states where you can get 10 cents for your recycling. And then finally, what are the advantages for the environment? I'm not going to expand on this one at all because, hey, I feel like they're pretty obvious, right? Ecological design is going to have a massive advantage to the environment. You're going to have to give me some reasons how, okay? Now, if we keep looking down, we're now to, so that was 200 words. Now we're down to 50 words, and this is for paragraph 3. What does the term carbon footprint mean? Write a definition in your own words. So I think by now you should be picking up that everything I put in brackets is really important. So write a definition in your own words. It means that you don't just Google it and the first definition that comes up is the one you use. You've got to make sure, hey, I've read 3 or 4 definitions. I'm going to now formulate my own definition of carbon footprint. Okay, does that make sense? That should be pretty straightforward. If you've got any problems, make sure you ask me. But yeah, we also, like, when we get these things and we turn your assignments through, turn it in, if you do just copy and paste what carbon footprint means straight from the net, it's going to pop up straight away and it's going to come up as 100% copied. So you got to make sure you think about that, because no matter what, I have to run all your stuff through, turn it in, especially if you're in years 11 and 12. Okay, now we're down to paragraph 4, okay, so what ecological considerations have you taken into account when designing and making your product, okay? So that could be what should you have taken into account when making your product. You can change that question, okay? So no matter what, these are going to be the starting questions in your paragraph, possibly, and you could change that. So, like I said before, it's not a plus or a minus. You're not going to lose marks for having an unecologically sustainable product. You're going to gain marks by realizing that it is or isn't ecologically sustainable and giving me good evidence for that. Okay, so the considerations, so they can be considerations for things that you've thought about or not thought about or should have thought about. And then finally, you're calculating your carbon footprint of your product. Okay, so now, sorry, my eye. So what you can do for that, right? If I go here and I'll go Google. Now this is important, right? Because I don't want you just looking up, what is it? Metal carbon calcu. That'll correct me anyway. Calculator. Try to type this quick so it goes through. Come on. But yeah, it's really important. So if you just look up a calculator, where does that show me you're working out? So you need to show your maths. So there we go. So carbon neutral. It's one of the first ones that comes up. But so you could just put your different measurements and weights and stuff in here, alright? But that's not going to do anything for me, okay? What you actually need to do, though, you need to research, so, amount of carbon per... There we go. So amount of carbon produced per kilogram of steel. I'm not sure if this is a good site or not. I'm just going to open up because it's the first one, but you really need to look. So what you're going to have to do, no, that doesn't really help me. So what you're actually going to have to do though, is have a look at, so alright, I'm going to find out exactly how much carbon is produced per kilogram of steel, okay? And then all you need to do is calculate the weight of your product and times it by the amount of carbon produced by the steel. So looking through this, I mean, kilograms, blah, blah, blah. So where are we? Steel, there's steel, material, iron, metal, steel, kilograms. So 1 kilogram equals 1.77. I'm not sure if that's right or not. This is the second site I've looked at. This is where it comes down to it, that you want to look at 3 or 4 sites, okay? So if this says 1.7, hey, I'm not going to take that as gospel. You've got to make sure you've got credible sources, okay, and having a look at multiple sites and actually making sure, alright, so if every single one of them tells you a different thing, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. I'm sure there's going to be some that match up. But that's the first one I found. So all I'm going to do is, so say if my product weighs 2 kilos, I'm going to times that by 1.77. So that's what you need to do for that. What parts of your design can be recycled? How could they be recycled? And what could this recycled material be used for in the future? So there's a bit of research in that for you. So figuring out exactly what maybe mild steel, or if you're using GAF, so exactly what that can be broken down into and reused for is really, really important. And that'll show some really good research thinking, researching from you, and cognitive thought as well if you're going to do some stuff in your own words. So if you look up maybe the process and you think, oh, that's a really interesting process, I think that could be made into this or this, that's good too. And then finally, so talking about the things that are good or bad from your product in terms of your ecological considerations, what does this mean for the environment? So if you've made something that is really, really good for the, that is really, really ecologically sustainable, what does that mean for the environment? If it's really not ecologically sustainable, what does that mean for the environment? That's left up to you. I'm not going to give you any answers to that. I'm not even going to expand on that because that's quite a straightforward question. If you need any help, ask me in person, okay? Or even leave a comment on the video. Paragraph 5 though, so we're up to the final paragraph, paragraph 5, summary. So why do you believe that your product is ecologically sustainable or not ecologically sustainable, and why? So all through this, so in this last section especially, and the very first opening statement, you've got to make sure you refer to your product, okay? So many times I might be reading through these and it's not until the summary that I figure out, oh, they're actually making this, okay? You need to make sure you talk about your major product throughout, okay? So definitely in your opening statement, and then definitely talking about it down here in paragraph 4 and 5, okay? So they might be the 2 key places you talk about it, but yeah, that's important. Also, I mean, if you're putting in a graph up here, that would be really good in paragraph 1, alright? So that's showing the changing mentality, because I mean, hey, if recycling is getting better as the years go by, that means mentality's got to be getting better. If you can show a graph of that would be fantastic. Also, if you can show, so maybe show a picture or something from the site that you found showing you the amount of kilograms of carbon that come out of a kilogram of steel, that would be really fantastic as well. But yeah, so this is just a basic summary. So in the end, so what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to connect this back to your opening statement and you're answering the question, why do you believe your product is ecologically or not ecologically sustainable? And then you're going to have to really put on your thinking hat and answer why. Okay, and that has to be a really, really good answer, and it has to be used from the research that you can draw from throughout this process. Okay, so hopefully that's helped you, and hopefully we're scoring in the in-depth investigation into focused and perceptive investigation into the impact of products or systems on individual society and or the environment. And then finally, your other bit, resourceful and well-informed analysis of the impact of the product or system on individual society and or the environment. So those are the 2 sections of the rubric, so here and here, that you're going to be covering with this section. So hopefully this has helped you out, and hopefully you'll be able to refer this back to the rubric as well.